In this lab, we're going to be moving on in our thematic analysis to a focus on thematic mapping. This is a process by which we can refine our emergent themes and come up with a final solution that captures the patterns in our data. Now, we've been through the first few stages in thematic analysis. That is, we have generated some codes based on our data, and we have collated our codes into potential or emergent themes. Now we're going to use the process of thematic mapping to refine these emergent themes and to try to come up with a thematic solution that best depicts the patterns in our data in the most parsimonious way possible. Okay, so firstly, I'd like us to look at an example provided by the Brown and Clark article. Brown and Clark provide 3 examples of thematic maps. That is, they show us what their initial thematic map looked like. Now, your initial thematic map is your first attempt to map the relationships between the themes you have identified. This is going to look a lot messier than your final thematic map, but don't worry about that. We will refine our thematic maps to form a far neater diagram that's more representative of the patterns in your data. Now, there are a number of questions you need to ask yourself about your initial thematic map. The first is, how are these themes related to one another or connected? Try to represent this somehow. This is represented here by the lines between the themes and sub-themes in the diagram. The other major thing you need to try to capture is the importance of the themes. Are some of these themes main themes or overarching themes, here represented in circles? The next thing you need to consider is whether the remaining themes are sub-themes of these main themes. You can see that these are here depicted in rectangles and are linked to the main themes that they are related to. Brown and Clark then show us how to refine an initial thematic map in order to focus on the themes that are most important. One of the ways to do this is to look for redundancy between the themes and to discard any themes that appear redundant or that overlap with other themes. The aim here is to reduce the number of main themes whilst still being able to describe the data. Now you'll see that they also provide us a copy of their final thematic map, which in contrast with the initial thematic map, which had 5 main themes, has only 2 main themes, each of which has 3 sub-themes. And this is the thematic map that they went with in their final analysis that they published in a peer-reviewed journal. Okay, now let's apply this process to some of our own data. These are the interviews on friendship we looked at in our coding demo video from a couple of weeks ago. So we have an interview transcript from Jenny, who's a high school age student, and a summary of the codes that we extracted from that data. And we have an interview with Alex, who's a little older, in his 20s, talking about his own friendship. And we've also got a summary of the codes we came up with from that interview. Now, we should always check back at the transcripts as part of this process. Thematic analysis is not a linear process, even though we're presenting it in stages. You shouldn't be afraid to take a step or 2 back and even recode some of the data in the light of the codes and the themes that are emerging. Okay, so after considering our coding summaries, we can then take a look back at the emergent themes that we thought we might draw from these codes to capture the ways that these codes cluster together. So here are the emergent themes. One was the function served by friendship. We had another to do with the meanings and definitions of friendship. Another one to do with friendship networks and change in development. And a final theme to do with conflict. Now, in order to start to refine these emergent themes, one of the things that we should do at this point is to try to generate an initial thematic map. Here is one I've come up with based on these codes and the ways that they appear to cluster together, and you'll note that it's quite busy. Yeah, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 main themes, each of which has a bunch of sub-themes. We can see that there are lines connecting both the themes and the sub-themes, and also some lines showing the relationships that might exist between the main themes. Now, as an initial set of themes, this does need some refining in order to be the most parsimonious or the most simple representation of the patterns in our data. One of the things that we should do is to look to any themes that might appear to be redundant. Yeah, so for example, we can see here that distance is mentioned as part of two of the main themes. So we might look at perhaps combining those two themes in some fashion in our more refined thematic map. Also, there appears to be some overlap conceptually between the material covered in the meanings of friendship and the functions of friendship themes. So again, as there's some overlap here, we might look at some way of combining these themes into one larger theme that encompasses all of these elements. Also, conflict is part of a couple of sub-themes here, and it might in fact fit better as part of the broader theme to do with managing challenges to a friendship. So let's see if we can refine this thematic map a little further. Now we should note here that as part of the process of refining our initial thematic map, we should return to our codes and read back through our transcript and check whether our thematic map describes our data. Okay, so here is a more developed thematic map that captures the essence of the patterns underlying the data without any redundancy or overlap in themes. You can see that this thematic map contains just two main themes, each of which has three sub-themes. Yeah? So the main themes are quality of a good friendship and maintaining friendship. And if you check back at the transcript and at the summary of codes that we extracted from each transcript, you will see that these two themes and 6 sub-themes do capture the essence of that data. Okay, so now we're going to have a go at this process ourselves. There is a handout coming round in a minute that will allow you to try out the process of thematic mapping. Please remember that your initial thematic map is a work in progress and does not represent your final thematic map.